Well, good morning and welcome once again to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and I'll be taking you through my live webcast for the next 25 minutes or so. We've got quite a packed show today, actually. As of yesterday, I was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about this morning, but in fact, a bunch of things have appeared, which I'll be looking at. Morning to Sue, she's looked in already. Good to see you here on time today, Sue. Right, okay, so what have we got? Well, we've got the news that my Better Biking articles are being posted concurrently on Facebook and Coffee. RST has launched an affordable airbag jacket, but there is a bit of a sting in the tail. Yamaha has sold off Motori Minarelli to Fantic Motor. Zero offering a free charge tank, and I'll explain what that is, with new 2020 machines. Suzuki's new Hayabusa looks just like the old one. Spanish carmaker Seat are behind the Spanish-made Silence e-bike brand. We'll also take a quick look at the bad Winner Thruxton 1200. It doesn't do it for me, I have to say. It might for you. And today's Better Biking question: should we be allowing 250cc's on a CBT certificate here in the UK? We'll have a look at the pros and the cons of that. So settle yourself down for the next 25 minutes or so and enjoy the show. Morning to Cheryl too, who's just looked in. Right, okay, so first of all, a bit of an announcement. If you're not a Facebook fan, and I can quite understand why you might not be, you'll be probably glad to know that the latest Tips on Tuesday and Skills on Saturday series, which I've been posting on Facebook for quite a long time now, are going to be published simultaneously over on my Coffee page. But secondly, a confession. Yesterday was Tuesday, and I completely forgot to do what I had said I would do. I forgot to post the Tips on Tuesday yesterday. So if you went looking for that, apologies. It is up now. It's all part of my continuing commitment to try to provide people with high quality, better biking content for all riders, really, and regardless of the depth of your pockets. So for 60 days, you will be able to read all those articles in both locations for now. They'll stay free on Facebook, but after 60 days, I will move them to the index supporter content over on Coffee. Now, the reason for that is that you will get the ability to actually track down individual articles via an annual index. There's the index that's already going up for the 2021 articles. You can obviously scan through the titles as well and just find something you're basically interested in reading. But once it's moved to the supporter content, the 30-day access price is just £3, so basically price for Coffee. But quite honestly, 60 days for now should give you plenty of time to read them, catch up on any you've missed, and also follow up linked series of articles as well. If you do become a supporter, of course, you get access to all the support content. And right now there are over 300 better biking articles, which I originally published on Facebook between 2014 and 2016. And I've made a start on 2017, so there'll be another 100 there. So basically, the Survival Skills Facebook and Coffee pages are probably the biggest and best value internet biking resource. So okay, there's a bit of self-promotion over. Nigel, good morning to you too. Right, okay, so I just need to change the screen share. Change the window, there we go, get that up on screen. And what you should be seeing now is the latest RST airbag jacket. It's fitted with the InMotion airbag technology, and it's said to be an affordable yet high-performance product that enables all riders to experience the enhanced protection of an airbag jacket. So what are you getting? Well, basically, you're getting a fairly standard fabric jacket. The outer is constructed of RST's brand name MaxTech's material, and it's lined with their other brand name Sinaqua waterproof lining, which is fixed incidentally. It comes with the usual pointless high vis and reflective styling details, which provide next to no benefit in terms of conspicuity. It gets cargo pockets, which are hopefully waterproof, and elasticated hook and loop adjusters. Good news is that a full-length zip connects it to any RST trouser. Now, who's it for? Well, basically, it's designed, and I quote, for the daily commuter who uses a bike as a mode of transport, not pleasure, and ultimately wants all the protection with no hassles when it comes to their kit. Okay, so it comes basically with level 1 CE shoulder and elbow armor, and the jacket itself is rated to CE level AA, which RST claim offers a high level of safety. Personally, I'd say AA is just about the minimum level you should be looking to at for use on the road. Now, good news is that 279, the jacket won't break the bank, but don't get too excited because there is a sting in the tail. What's the in-motion airbag technology? Well, it's a tried and tested sensor system and airbag combo, which is the same regardless of which jacket brand the airbag is actually fitted to. So as well as RST's airbag jackets, you'll find the in-motion airbag also in garments from Held, Furigan, Ixon and Klim. Essentially, how it works is the airbag itself is contained within a CE approved level 1 back protector, and when it goes off, the airbag pops out of the back protector and it wraps around your shoulders, over your neck, and gives your chest some protection. Okay, so like many of these airbags, the original was actually developed on track in collaboration with Ixon. But apparently around 500 vests were distributed to riders in Europe to actually test on the road. And what this allowed the manufacturers to do is actually pull in a lot of data which controls the algorithms which set the airbag off, which decide when it goes off and when it doesn't. Now, the control unit itself is a device. It's a plug-in device, which is about the size of a mobile phone. It's charged via a USB socket and offers about 20 hours use before it needs recharging, which takes about 3 hours. So, it's probably means a once a week charge at the weekend for a commuter. But if you're touring long distance, really, it looks like you probably have to charge it every night to be on the safe side. The control unit itself is what houses the built-in sensors, so there's no lanyard needed on these airbags, and it also runs updatable software which decides when the bag deploys. If what's called an unrecoverable imbalance is detected, then a gas inflator fires within 60 milliseconds. The data unit also sends information back to InMotion, and that's basically designed to allow the company to continually update the software. So there's a two-way partnership going on here. You provide them with the data, they provide you with updates to the unit. So what's the hidden sting? Well, the answer to that really is the costs of the unit, which I'll just get up on screen. There it is. Although you have purchased the airbag, it turns out that what you've actually done is simply bought the jacket with an inert airbag in it. You then have to actually contact InMotion themselves to activate it. So you can either buy it outright for the £399, or you can lease it for the £120 a year. Okay, so whether £120 is value for money, I can't tell you really. I mean, it's less than a lot of people will pay for a mobile phone contract. I don't get anywhere near that amount of cash, quite frankly, but there we go. But if you're a cap-strapped rider, that could well be the kind of, the stick that breaks the camel's back, as it were. If you do set it off, you'll need a new inflator cartridge, and that's also rather pricey, £70. So really, the question is, does it do the job? Well, I think the jury's still out on airbag jackets myself. We heard a lot about the protective qualities of back protectors and body armor generally when it first started to appear sort of 30 plus years ago. But when you go and look at the accident statistics and you see, fatalities and injuries, it's hard to see where it's having a serious effect on reducing injuries. Riders are still being killed in collisions with vehicles and hard objects like trees. And there was an Australian study carried out not too long ago that actually decided that it didn't reduce lower limb fractures. What it did actually do was something completely unexpected, was reduce the number of skin abrasion injuries. And that was because whilst the outer garment failed, the material tore, the body armor itself was actually over the top of your limb, your knee or whatever, and it prevented abrasion injuries. So it's not what you'd expect from body armor. My gut feeling on airbags is that they will make a fall and slide less painful. If you have ever hit the deck after falling off at 30 miles an hour, you can give yourself a nasty bump. You can break collarbones and things like that. But as long as you slide to a stop, you don't hit anything hard, you're unlikely to kill yourself. It's the impact, not with the ground, that kills people on crashes. It's stopping very suddenly when they hit something hard, like a car or a tree. And frankly, the chances of an airbag doing anything significant in those situations are more restricted. Nick says, good morning. He also says that he liked to have a similar system with an optional front fork sensor. And Sue suggests that they probably don't make these things in a women's size and shape. That's a possibility, but you can buy the airbag in a sort of a vest and then fit your own jacket around it. So that's possibly one way around that problem. Right, okay. What else have we got for you? Well, at the other end of the I'll skip a story. Hang on a minute. Motori Minarelli. Yes, that was the one I wanted to cover next. They've been bought by Fantic Motor. Fantic recently acquired the company in full from Yamaha. The company produced a range of 125 and 50cc motors, and you'll find those in bikes like the MT125 and the R125 Yamahas. But they were also licensed out to manufacturers such as Sherco, Beta, and Riehu. Yamaha will continue to use the Minarelli engine in their bikes, but the news points to a future in which Fantic and Minarelli will be working on a range of electric motorcycles. Fantic Motor CEO Mariano Roman said, the strengthening of the partnership with Yamaha and Motor Europe and the acquisition of Motori Minarelli represents for Fantic Motor an important step to further reinforce our position as a technological leader in the production of motorcycles, e-bikes and e-mobility products in Italy. Right, so, okay, at the other end of the capacity scale, photos leaked of the new Hayabusa. Now, if you are familiar with the Hayabusa, what you'll see here is a motorcycle that looks very much like the previous model. Whether they were leaked deliberately is anybody's guess, and it's due to appear on Friday anyway, so it's a fair guess that they might have been leaked deliberately to the press. So basically, the bike's got the same aerodynamic wind tunnel shape that you either love or hate. Having ridden a Hayabusa, I can say that it does actually work remarkably well. The bike gains the now conventional LED headlights, indicators and brake lights. It also gets the obligatory TFT instrument panel, though it retains an analog speedo, which actually is my favourite combination. The updated 1440cc four-cylinder liquid-cooled engine is still going to produce around 200 horsepower. You've got a new chrome finished exhaust, and the emissions are Euro 5 compliant. Predictably, the bike also comes with the electronic packages that we'll expect on virtually any new bike these days: traction control, cornering ABS, and multiple riding modes. One thing that does appear to be missing is cruise control, and that could be more useful than you might think. So years ago, a buddy of mine actually picked up a speed camera fine. He was doing 30, sneezed, tweaked the throttle, ended up doing 40 just as he went through a speed camera. So obviously, the hay fever season, you could be forgiven for hoping to find a speed control on it. But one thing that did puzzle me a little bit was the bike comes with hill start assist. Does a rider on a bike like that really need help with his hill starts? I don't know the answer to that one, but I suspect really they shouldn't. If your interests are switching away from petrol towards electric, though, there is an offer I can tell you about. As of the 1st of February, Zero were offering anybody who buys a 2020 model SRF, that's their naked high performance one, a free accessory charge tank, currently worth £2,735 for free. The charge tank basically is a sort of dealer fitted tank section that eliminates the under tank storage space that's available on the standard bike, but gives you the option of using level 2 charging stations as you work to charge the bike. Now, what that means basically is that you can charge the bike to full in around an hour. How economical the Zeros are right now, you'll get a full charge at home for under £2, and you get a claimed range from the standard bike of around 160 miles. You may recall that I took a test ride on the SRF a couple of years ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed riding the bike. I loved the performance. It was a perfectly usable real-world motorcycle, wasn't heavy, handled well enough, but my test ride did suggest that a realistic range in mixed riding is probably round about 120 miles, and at the moment that isn't quite enough to cover what I want a bike to do. So that offer is available for the moment while stocks last, but only for unregistered 2020 models. All right, quick sip of my tea. I'm going to skip the next story, actually, otherwise I think I'm going to run out of time today. Right, okay, so let's show you. Whoops, that was what I wanted to click. So let's try and get the right thing up. I was looking at bikes on sale the other day, and there was an advert basically in an old motorcycle news or magazine or something from a single dealer, and it was from 1982. And what I'd forgotten was just how much variety there was, how many different models you could actually choose from each of the model ranges. There was something like 4 different Yamaha 250s. There were 4 different 1100s from Suzuki. There were a huge variety of bikes that you could pick and choose from. Now, just compare that with the current model range. The fact that you can buy the MT-07 motor in about 4 different varieties of chassis, sort of with bolt-on bits, doesn't really make up for the lack of actual choice. So it probably is not entirely surprising that there is quite a market for kits that riders can use to update either brand new bikes or sort of nearly new machines. And this is the sort of thing that I'm talking about. That under that kit is a Triumph Thruxton 1200, and it's been given a makeover by a company called Bad Winners. And it's said to be a little lighter and a little more nimble. Well, frankly, it would be tough to make the bike heavier. You'll see that basically one of the things they've done is they've stripped out anything that's under the seat, and they've also replaced that seat pad. Maybe it's me, but the pad itself appears to be sets a long way back from the frame on which it sits, and that suggests to me that seat will be hideously uncomfortable after a few minutes. And if you also look at that air filter, which is on that sort of 180-degree pipe, to clear the frame, I rather suspect that will be exactly where your knee is too. The 2-into-1 system shown in the picture seems to be added to the existing kit, so I don't know where that came from. But the kit itself, minus that system, will set you back a cool €4,490. Now, how much does that add up to? Well, the standard Thruxton 1200 starts at £1,100 already. £11,000, sorry, not 1100. 1100 would be a bargain. The R model will set you back 1240, and the RS is at 13,000. So by the time you've thrown on one of these kits, you're looking at well over £17,000, and that's before you start adding any of Triumph's own extras, such as fancy paint and the Cafe Racer fairing option. And just one question about the bike. If you look closely at the bottom of the engine, you'll see there's a bash plate on it. What's a bash plate doing on a Cafe Racer? My guess is it's probably to protect the bike from all the speed bumps in its natural environment, which is undoubtedly Kensington and Chelsea. In my opinion, that is a perfectly ghastly motorcycle. I'll turn that off. It's annoying. I didn't even realize it was still going. Right. Okay. So I'm going to move on to the final item today. This is the question of whether or not we should be allowing a 250 to be ridden on a CBT in the UK. Now, this came up in a sort of a magazine article that I read recently. And it was kicked off by this particular machine. Fairly unexceptional looking, isn't it? But it's the MT25 from Yamaha. It's a brand new bike. It's powered by a parallel twin 250, and it's destined for markets like India and Indonesia, and it may well find its way into Australia and perhaps New Zealand as well. But it is unlikely to come to the UK. But it has sparked the question of whether learners should be allowed to ride something like that. The suggestion was that the CBT unlocks the access to a 125, a 14.6 horsepower 125 at 17, and then the idea was that at 19 perhaps you should have a choice. You can either move up to do your A2 license after having done your 2 years on your CBT, or you continue on a CBT, but you can now ride a 250cc because you've got that 2 years of experience. And the writer says that the MT25 is a kind of halfway ground, he says, between kind of 46.6 horsepower bikes that you have for your A2 license and the kind of the 125 that you have already been riding. And as justification for the argument, the writer says that in Indonesia, where the MT25 will be found, you can ride a 250cc right off the bat. Well, as I understand it, you can also ride similar spec machines on a LAMS learner-approved motorcycle license in Australia and New Zealand. And as far as I know, they also have a bit of a crash problem with them because these riders are essentially riding sort of reasonably quick machines on learner licenses. Now, a bit of history. CBT was brought in 1990. And the idea at the time was to stop learner riders jumping straight onto a bigger machine without any kind of training. Now, that's exactly what I did. I went out and bought a 125 and I went straight out on the road with no training. And of course, what many of those riders with no training went on to do was crash, which I also did. So CBT is there to ensure that novice riders have a minimum of skills and at least a couple of hours with a trainer talking them through some basic maneuvers before being let loose on the road for themselves. Whether or not CBT has actually reduced crashes is a bit of a moot point. It's hard to see in the statistics. But what the writer has perhaps forgotten is what came before CBT, and that was back in 1992 when the 125 law was enacted. And what this did was it reduced the capacity limit for a bike that could be ridden by a learner on all plates from a 250, like the MT25, to a 125. Prior to that, it had been anything up to 250 was game on for a learner. If you're of a certain age, you'll undoubtedly remember that. And what it did, of course, was it kind of created an arms race to see who could build the quickest and fastest 250. You may recall bikes like the RD250LC and the X7 Suzuki. They were pretty high performance bikes for the time. Yeah, they're also the more honest plodders, I suppose you could call them, like the 250 Super Dream. But those 250s, the RD and the X7, punted out probably around about 30 horsepower. It's always a bit difficult to tell without a dyno in front of you. So what does that MT25 produce? Well, according to the figures I've seen, it's 35.5 horsepower. That's quite a lot of power for a 250. And it seems to be more power than the RD250 and the X7, either of those two strokes. So the question is, do we really want newish riders hurtling around on either of those machines? And I think, honestly, I think the answer is probably not. The idea of the CBT was actually to encourage riders to go through the process of getting some training and getting a full license. The real problem is the driving license directive, which says that if you do pass a test on a 125, you get a full license, which restricts you to a 125. That is completely pointless. There's absolutely no justification for that. You ought to be able to move up to a bigger machine after you have passed your test. As it is, all that it does is it forces new riders onto a 125 and to stay there. There is absolutely no point in spending a lot of money to get a full license for something that is exactly the same as you're already riding, when to move up to the next level, to the A2 license or the full A motorcycle license, you have to go through the whole rigmarole of module 1 off-road and module 2 on-road tests all over again. So not surprisingly, of course, what we have is a generation now of old plate riders who are on 125s. So I don't think releasing learner riders onto bigger machines is the answer. But what I do think massively needs an overhaul is the license directive, which forces riders to take a new test on a bigger machine rather than just training. Training was always an option. It was always there in the EU directive. It was the DFT and the DVSA who insisted that new tests were necessary to move onto those bigger bikes. It was always allowable that trainers themselves could sign off riders onto the bigger machines. I mean, they do it for CBTs already. There's absolutely no justification for suggesting that they couldn't do it for the bigger bikes when the riders reach the necessary age to jump up a category, and that would save riders a lot of money. But frankly, this sort of halfway house 250 idea is a dead duck. It's a non-starter. It's not going to happen. So if you've read that and got your hopes up, forget it. It ain't going to happen. Politically, it would be a sort of basically not a complete time bomb for any government that even thought about bringing it in. Right, okay, so that's brought me to the end of today's show. A couple of comments have come in. Sue's pointed out that women are different shapes. Yes, I don't disagree with that. I don't know what the airbag jacket's sizing is like. You'd have to go and look at the various individual ranges. Paul has just pointed out there is a Paragon ladies airbag jacket. Well, thank you very much for that, Paul. That's answered your question, Sue. Right, okay. So, yes, that's it for today. Just a couple of reminders then. I've already told you about the Facebook post going up on coffee. Do pop over there and have a look if you haven't already. Don't forget, too, that there is my growing series of 60-second safety videos, which are on YouTube. You'll find them all on the channel here, Survival Skills UK. A new one should go up tomorrow. And don't forget the newsletter as well, which is also helping people keep in contact with what I'm doing over on Facebook. I know the algorithms are a pain in the arse, which determining what you see and what you don't see, but the newsletter covers all the posts of the week and basically links you back to them on Facebook, so you won't miss anything. And last but not least, you know, as I've said, that I'm locked down, not shut down. I'm still available for online coaching, and I'm also available to deliver presentations to groups and clubs. I'm doing one this evening. I have another book for Saturday, and I'm also going to be presenting virtually to the New Zealanders. Shiny side up if you're under the equator, the other side of the world, and you're watching at some point. Good morning or good evening to you, and I'll be seeing you online hopefully in a couple of weeks' time. That's it really. Yeah, so stay safe, ride well if you are out there on the road today, and look back in on Sunday when I'll be back with another edition of Elevenses. Bye for now.